Once you're seated, state your full name, spelling your last.
Yeah, I poured it first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, boy. I was moving it thinking of some relation.
Amber Kyzer, Kyzer.
Amber, who are you here for?
I'm here for my babies.
Did your kids love their dad?
Yes, they did.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your and Tim's relationship and how it was?
In the beginning, Tim and I had a very strong relationship. I think we found a lot in common. I wasn't speaking to my family at the time, and I'm not sure if he was really speaking to his at the time when we first met. And we just kind of latched onto each other. Later on, any little thing would kind of spark an argument, and our relationship became volatile, not just on Tim's side, on mine as well. It got aggressive at times, violent. But we managed to stick through it because we had the children. Towards the end of our marriage, I think I was thinking in the best interest for my children, that it was not a good environment. It was not something that children need to be seeing. So we separated ourselves. Tim initially left me and turned my power off and stuff. And I found it really hard because I just had nothing to offer my children. I could not provide for them. I think as a mother, I was making the best choice that I could. I trusted my husband at the time because he gave me no reason not to with my children. He was a good father while we were married. He promised to take care of them. We co-parented pretty good towards the end. I think that's what took me back a little bit. I'm really sorry that everybody has to sit here for this. I don't think anybody saw this coming, and I know between myself and members of the Jones family themselves, I know if anybody had seen anything, that any one of us would have done something about it. So we wouldn't be in this position today.
Did you love Tim?
I did. You know, I'd be lying if I sat here and said that everything in our marriage is bad. Tim and I had a lot of good times. It just becomes a point when things are volatile that you just make a choice. Where your young children aren't seeing certain things, it's affecting them at a point. And you make a choice to separate yourself from that person. And it's hard to separate yourself from that person because that's all you've known. All I knew from 19 was Tim.
Do you want Tim put to death?
I personally, myself, can't bring myself to want anybody to die. It's a really hard. I hear what my kids went through, and I'm just being honest. I hear what my kids went through and what they endured. Sorry. And as a mother, if I could personally rip his face off, I would. That's the mom in me. That's the mama bear in me wanting to just make him feel everything they felt. I don't personally feel like I have the right to put anybody's life in my hands. I don't wish that upon anybody. I don't wish the Jones family to feel what I felt losing my sons. I do not wish to. I will never have my grandbabies. I will never have those things. They'll never get to see anything more of them. I'm trying to, I guess, take a step back and trying to put myself in everybody's shoes, because it has affected a lot more than just myself. It's even affected you guys. And you're just getting to know them. There's so much more about them. It's affected more than just me. I pray for Tim all the time. I pray for him often. I pray for his family often. I pray for my family. They didn't even have the opportunity to know them. I can't bring myself to want anybody to die. That's something that I say because I have to be okay with what I say on this stand. This is something I have to live with. There's been a lot of loss on both sides of our families. Since my kids have died, I have lost 11 family members, if you include my children, within the past 5 years. One being an aunt that died the first day trials started of kidney failure. I've had many, many losses in pregnancy. I had 8 babies altogether with Tim. 8. I had 5 healthy, 2 miscarriages, and a stillborn daughter, and now I have none of them. That's a lot of loss for a mother to feel. So I do sympathize with Miss Roberta. I do. I think her and I connected on that when I was involved in the Jones family.
Do you want mercy for Tim?
I do. And I don't say it lightly. He did not show my children mercy by any means. But my kids loved him. And if I'm speaking on behalf of my kids and not myself, that's what I would have to say. I'm not here for me. The mom in me just wants him to feel it. Everything that I feel, that my kids felt. Nothing justifies what you've done. There's nothing you could possibly say that would justify what you've done to my babies. But they loved you. I loved you. I thought if we could reach a point to make things work for our children, that we could. And then we'd argue again. And I'd say, there's the Tim that I can't be with. It wasn't a game. It was a legitimate back and forth, a fight emotionally. I hope for mercy for you. I pray for you often. And I say that without excusing what he's done. I say that wholeheartedly from the depths of my soul. I don't want anyone to feel anymore. There's been so much loss. A lot of loss.
Thank you. Please answer your questions today.
Amber, you've been through so much. There's no possible way you could ever put it into words, is there?
No, ma'am.
You could sit here all day today and all day tomorrow and still not spill out all of the contents of your heart.
Yes, that's true.
And those 5 beautiful souls you had, they're irreplaceable.
They are. I have a 3-year-old that looks identical to Mira. Identical. But she's not Mira. No.
And you haven't been able to be in the courtroom, but you've been watching all of this, haven't you? So that you could keep up.
I have. I've watched every bit of this unfold.
And all of those unique, special, undeniable characteristics that you heard about the kids.
Yes.
Those are all true and more, aren't they?
Oh, yes, and so much more about them. I think Ton made his presence known when Woody started talking.
You said a little while ago that the decisions you made were because I had nothing to offer my children. And that might be true financially, but you had a lot more to offer them, didn't you? Love.
I did. I didn't have the physical means, but they were very loved. This is something I tell my kids every night. I do. I told them while I talked to them on the phone, and I mean it. My kids were wanted. They are loved, and they are important. They are loved. They are wanted, and they are important. Always. I've always wanted them. I've always loved them. I've never told them that I didn't want them.
And so when we talk about that love and care that you had to offer them, that's eternal.
Yes, it is.
And even when you physically left the residence, he knew you still loved and cared for your children, didn't he?
He did. He did know.
And he knew that on August 28th of 2014, didn't he?
He did.
I want to talk with you a little about what led you here today to testify in this phase. Of course, you testified in the guilt phase because you had direct knowledge of what happened on the night of August 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
You were the last person to speak with Natal.
Yes.
But what led you here today is I think you got a subpoena.
Yeah, to be here. It was from yesterday. I was called to be here.
And you were called by Tim's attorneys to be here, really to state what you've always felt, that you don't want to be the one to decide what should happen to someone.
Right. That's why we have the jury.
And part of what goes into that, just making sure that it's conveyed accurately, is in a case like this, it's a jury that decides the sentence.
It is.
Question. First question.
The state has never asked you or requested you to take a position on this, right?
No.
And
I need the Jones family to know that at the end, this is not my choice. This is not my choice. And I respect whatever choice you make. I need you guys to know that.
And so really, Amber, that's what I want to ask about a little bit more. With the state seeking the death penalty, the state has never asked you to take a position one way or another, correct?
No, they haven't.
You respect the state's right to seek the death penalty in this
Objection.
case.
Question.
Stand first one on the record. This one all out.
Yes. You respect the state's right to seek the death penalty in this case.
I do. I just can't.
You don't want to be the one who would have to make that decision.
Right, I can't make that decision.
And we've never asked that of you, have we?
No.
And I think you said a few moments ago that as a mother, your feelings might be different when you think in terms of being a mom.
I think any mother would. I think any mother would want to shred the face off of anybody who would harm her children. Absolutely. Yes, that would be the mom in me.
And the mom in you, part of you, will always be part of you. The mom in you has had a lot of conflicted feelings about what should happen to him.
Yes, I spoke very openly about that. I didn't get the chance just to kind of give a little. I didn't have the chance to hear everything that had happened to my children, what had literally happened to them, or what happened that night, the things that had led up to this. I wasn't aware of fully. So I was finding out, along with you guys and the world, what had happened to my children. So in retrospect, the mom in me was like, fry him. Absolutely. But from the beginning, I have maintained that I'm not a death penalty. I'm a strong believer in no death penalty. But yes, I've had very conflicting opinions with that in regards to what had happened to my children. Yes, naturally.
You spoke a little bit a few moments ago about some of the violence. There was an incident here in Lexington County, I believe, that you actually reported to the police.
Would it be the 18-wheeler?
Can you tell us about that?
Tim and I were leaving Walmart, and we had gotten into an argument, and he said, hey, let's just play chicken then, in a more stern, argumentative tone. And I said, Tim, it's not funny. It's not effing funny. It's not effing funny. We had the kids in the back seat. So an 18-wheeler was coming this way, and Tim steered the car where the 18-wheeler would hit me directly. And as we were driving toward the 18-wheeler, it wasn't much of a distance at all, and Tim jerked the car that way and just started laughing about it like it was funny. And I know he remembers that one. I did report that. It scared me. My children were in the car. Had that 18-wheeler hit, it would have killed. It would have killed everybody in the car.
Is that the only incident that happened during the marriage?
No.
Were there times he laid hands on you physically?
Yes,
And you have since informed law enforcement about those times as well, correct?
I did. One incident in particular, we were arguing. I can't remember what it was about. But Tim grabbed me by the side of my head and headbutted me to the point where I just blanked out. And when I got up, it was just kind of what just happened. But I could feel my head kind of jar, my brain jar in my skull. And shortly after that, he threw a phone at my face and broke my back teeth out.
How much of that did the children witness?
I'd like to say none of it. My daughter, my oldest two, probably witnessed the most. Mira witnessed a lot of Tim spitting in my face. I was always a whore, spitting in my face. I'm not talking I'm talking like hawking loogies and spitting them in my face. He would take me by the side of my hair and smack my head as hard as he could off the car window, or while I was pregnant and we would be arguing in the car, he would stomp the brake to where the belt would just tighten around my stomach. The verbal abuse was always that he would chop me up and feed me to the pigs. Because pigs will eat everything on me but my teeth, and it'll never be found.
So, what you've just described, did that contribute to you leaving the marriage?
It did. I think when you're in a situation, when you're in a marriage, and it was volatile both ways. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and sugarcoat and pretend that I'm this innocent woman. when you're in a relationship and it's like a tornado and a hurricane and it's like a head-on collision, there's no coming down from that. There just isn't. It escalated more when we got here, and I think losing the Jones, like we would go to the Jones family's residence, his dad's residence, every Saturday, I believe, to have family dinners. That was my break out of my home. And I would vent to my mother-in-law or just have a moment and cry. Because that's all I could do. When we got down here and we didn't have that support to just run to, I don't think either of us really knew what to do. I think I couldn't get my kids out to go to a park if I wanted to. I was stuck in a home for 9 years all the time until we went to his dad's house. And I've got to say, as a woman speaking honestly, I mean, it'll drive you nuts. It'll just drive you nuts. It's like the homeschooling with Mira and Elias. I'm not a certified teacher, so if my kids weren't up to par with their grades, I'm not going to pretend to be.
Videos, you identified them originally, I believe, in the first phase of this trial, and they have since been offered into evidence and have been published to the jury. Well, what can you tell us, Amber, about those videos that we saw that were sent to your phone of Mira and Eli?
At the time that I received those, it crushed my heart because these are my babies. And I had even had a discussion with Tim about those recordings after they were sent. I felt like he was using my kids to manipulate me to come back home. The thing was with my children is that my children were still young, and they didn't quite grasp what was going on or the volatileness between our marriage. As kids shouldn't. That shouldn't be something that's flashed out to a child. That's something that they should be sheltered from, period. It was getting to a point where I couldn't shelter them from that anymore. So him sending these, it was almost tormenting. It was like your kids are crying for you and you still won't come back. Why are you making them sit down and record themselves crying like this? Because you're tormenting them too. And just stop. It was tit for tat, back and forth like that constantly, and it was very draining. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things to benefit anybody here. I'm just that's my feeling on the matter. I knew my kids. I knew at least Mira and Natan wanted to be with me. I didn't miss my visits with my children. I missed maybe 2 at the end, but I was very adamant about seeing my kids. And when I had the chance, I went to see my kids because Lord knows I didn't get to see them often. The pictures that you guys saw with Tim holding Gabe, I took those. And it was last time I saw my children alive physically. I don't know how anybody else sees them, but to me, Tim was smiling. Gabriel was smiling. All the kids were smiling. There was nothing. I thought we were at a point where we were co-parenting just fine. We were meeting, we were communicating. We had our volatile phone conversations regularly. It wasn't every night, but it was regularly. On both ends. I was stressed because I was managing at Walmart. He made the schedule, and it's like, Tim, I can't get there at this specific time. Can you please schedule it for another time? Or instead of meeting me in Lexington, he'd want me to find a way to get all the way to Bush River Road, but didn't want my now mother-in-law to drive me there knowing I didn't have a license. It was impossible. Nothing.
Did you feel like he was working with you to make those visits happen?
At times he did. I'm not gonna lie. And there, you know, and I think his dad and his grandmother reiterated this too, though. When you make Tim mad, you make him mad. There's no working with him. There's no in the middle. It's either this or nothing at all. So it was rare that he would work with me on something. I believe he did work with me on letting me take them to Chuck E. Cheese and treat them to that. That was special to me because that's something I really wanted to do. I paid for every visit.
So the videos that you received, your word earlier was manipulate. You believe you received those to manipulate you into coming back home?
That's how I took it, yes. That's how I took it.
When we talk about the character of the defendant, the character of Timothy Jones, is manipulation a fair way to describe him?
Yeah, it can be. Tim knows how to manipulate. Tim knows how to be stubborn and hard-headed, manipulative, coercive.
About Natan,
I think a lot of what my kids may have said was coerced. I really do, because that's not the relationship I had with my children. When my children were with me, there wasn't a problem. There was no problem. My kids, mommy, and ran to me with open arms. I can tell you my kids were as stubborn as me, and if they had an issue with me, they wouldn't have ran to me.
I believe there's a Defense Exhibit 267, Defense Exhibit 267, a statement from Crystal Valentine, wherein it's alleged that the defendant would tell the children that you didn't love them. Were you aware of that behavior?
I was not aware of that. I was not. It's like when I say I'm finding stuff out along with you guys, I truly am. I was not aware that my kids felt like I didn't love them. I was not, because I showed it often. Anytime, I believe as a parent, when you are wrong for something, if you expect your child to not lie and to tell you the truth and to make things right, I believe as a parent you should do the same. And that has always been my thing with my children. That's why the notes were written to them. I wasn't the only failure in the marriage, but if I hurt my children, and I did, then I need to apologize for it. I need to address it. So, but I know I was not aware of them hearing that. I always let them know you are loved, you are wanted, and you are important. And I express that to them often. My fondest last memory of my son Natan was him running to me across. Tim had just parked in the parking space at Chick-fil-A. And my son got out of the car, and he had a little checkered shirt, which I still have to this day. I can't bring myself to wash because it still smells like him. But he had his arms open, and he just took off in the parking lot saying, "Mommy." And I said, "Whoa, son, you're going to get hit by a car." The tight hug that my son gave me, I try to hold on to that, because if they died thinking that I didn't want them or love them, it's going to kill me. That's just...
Were you aware of any issues that Timothy Jones had regarding the time?
The two children, out of all five of my children, the two that I always defended the most, that I found myself having to defend the most, were Mira and Natan. Natan primarily. Natan did not have a problem expressing his feelings. He was very bold. If you did something, he would very much let you know to your face. You could have a zit and he'd let you know that it was ugly and to pop it. That's how upfront he was about his feelings. I think there was some resentment there with Tim. I think there was resentment with my daughter, Mira, and my son, Natan, wanting to be with me. I truly do. I think every parent, when you're in a situation where your kids are separated and you're vying for their attention and their love, you're pick me, In that situation, I guess I didn't fight hard enough. I didn't feel like putting my kids through this tug of war was going to make it any better. I had my feelings and my opinions with their dad, and I felt like when they got older, they'd figure it out for themselves. Tim had other methods of it.
And that night, one of the sources of conflict that last night was that you had defended Latan.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And he let me know it. Tim let me know it.
Amber, his statements to you, you call him making statements that you would never have the children, that they would never live with you.
He had many times, numerous times.
He's made that statement on more than one occasion.
Yes, I would say, Tim, what have I done as a parent? I mean, the court didn't find anything wrong with me as a parent. I had joint custody. I chose, as a mother, what I thought was the most responsible thing with making him primary custodial parent. I obtained a car. I obtained a license. I got a management job, and I got my high school diploma, all to prove to the system that I was a good enough parent. It just wasn't good enough for Tim, and it never was going to be good enough for Tim. I didn't have anything to offer. He was very insistent on them not being around Sean.
Sean being,
And then I found out about Crystal.
Sean being your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband now.
Yes, and he was 24, by the way. He was 24 when we got together. I was 27.
When you said you found out about Crystal, you had not been aware.
No, I was not aware of that. I was not even aware. Currently, I live about 5 minutes from Tim's old place. And I was not aware that he had that place set up and had Crystal living there at all. It was not until the guardian ad litem stepped into the case. We were both equally paying for her, I believe, for her services. And I said, well, who's watching my kids? You know, I'm a mom. I want to know who's watching my children because this isn't right. You know, if I'm not working, why can't he just drop them with me? I'd be willing to meet him and go there, whatever the case is, because they're familiar with me. It gives me a little extra time with them. That wasn't going to happen. That was a problem. Well, that's when I found out about Crystal and her being involved with, we still weren't divorced, so my husband. And it hit me the wrong way. Here, I'm being accused of sleeping with a 17-year-old boy, and it's him that's doing it. You know, I didn't jump into a relationship with Sean like everybody's proclaiming. That's not how it happened at all. And it's unfair for that to be put out there. Everything, I feel like everything I was accused of is quite opposite.
So the statement,
To make me look like the bad parent.
the statements that you would never have the children, Amber, he's told you that on more than one occasion?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Nothing further.
Despite everything that you've been through, do you want Tim to be put to death?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
Well,
No.
Thank you.
I'll respect whatever the jury decides.
And Amber, just to follow up on that, you're okay, but you're not the one making that decision, aren't you?
I am.
Nothing further.